What is going on, you guys? My name is Rage and we're back today with a new beginner farming guide here. In today's video, we're going to be focusing on characters you should be keeping an eye out for, especially if you're a free-to-play player. Characters to build up as you're progressing early in the game. And personally, I have played the game now for about, as you can see here, the login days, almost 480. So that's just shy of about 16 months, but I have a really good grasp now in the terms of which characters you should be investing in and which ones really kind of added value even from the early to mid as well as the late game. So with that being said, I'll dive into the characters I want to talk about, and this is by no means in any particular order. It's just more so just how I presented it as well. We'll talk about where to farm them and why I think they should be considered, especially when you're starting out as a newer player. With that being said here, you guys, Mr. Sinister, arguably one of the most powerful mutants in the game, and really the caveat on him is the fact that, unfortunately he is only available in the War Store, but being one of the most powerful mutants in the game and being available to newer players, especially if you have access to your alliance and being able to access the War Store credits, definitely one of the top recommendations for the War Store. Mr. Sinister, he prides himself in his ability here to actually be able to clone enemy units. So really what's the beauty with him is the fact that he can actually change the battle situation as well. He's considered a very, very powerful force in Dark Dimension, which is considered one of the late game stages of Marvel Strike Force. So just something to keep in mind. You guys can build him up early. He's going to pay huge dividends for you, especially as you progress through the game, and having that ability to adapt to the situation because he can copy an enemy really provides amazing and unreal value, especially for your team. Next, we're going to still stick around in the War Store here. Another key character is Minerva, and really what she's known for in the game is the fact that she actually has one of the few revives in the game. So you're going to find starting out, there's not really a lot of characters that can actually heal and sustain your team, but Minerva has the best of both worlds. First of all, she does have a revive here that can bring back a fellow ally from the dead. And on top of that, she has actually a very, very generous ultimate ability here that steals 15% from all of the enemies and redistributes it to the allies. And the beautiful thing about this ability is you don't really notice how good it is until you, once again, entering the Dark Dimension stages, we can see how much value it actually does provide. So early players having access to Minerva can very well dictate the way you progress in the game, especially having a character that can really give you a second chance in terms of attempting those nodes and really pushing forward in your progression. So definitely one of the two recommendations here for the War Store. Minerva and Mr. Sinister are definitely my top picks, especially if you guys have access to the war credits in Alliance. Next, there's been a lot of a back and forth with Black Widow in the past, but now that the game is pretty much different from a year and a half to 2 years ago, Black Widow, especially with the revamped Wave 1 Avengers team, has gotten amazing value. For Black Widow, she provides amazing support for the team because she actually has the speed up that can give everyone an increase in being able to access their turn. On top of that, she does have ability in the game as well, aside from other characters, to actually be able to kind of stun and actually apply that stun and control the situation. So you're not going to see that a lot from a lot of different characters, but with Black Widow, she does have access to that and also applies the bleed. Even better is when you actually have access to Hawkeye, and she really does provide ultimate value there in terms of being able to synergize and have those assisted attacks. Another key thing to note too is with her ability as well, if you were to T4 this special, which essentially means using the T4 materials that you see to the bottom right here to activate this ability all the way from level 6 to level 7. You can see that she actually has a cleanse in the game as well. I don't have this because my Avengers, I just don't use them as much as I do anymore, but keep in mind, she provides amazing value because you can get her quite early in the game. She's actually available in the villains campaign very early as well. I actually utilize her as one of the few Dark Dimension global characters because of the fact that she is one of the few characters that you can utilize in global that's skill and still has amazing value because of that. So definitely a top recommendation. You can use her in the early game, the mid game, as well as the late game. And there was a lot of minimum guide videos I made for Doom Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, where I also utilized a mixture of the Avengers team, and you bet Black Widow is definitely a key part of it. So that's why I definitely would recommend her if you guys have access to her starting out. She's a character you want to build early because she can provides immense value as you progress with your roster. A nice addition to the raid store recently is Baron Zemo, and with Baron Zemo, he's going to provide some early, mid, as well as late game. Really, the key thing for him is he does a lot of damage passively, especially if he's able to build charges, and more so, especially if you're going through the campaign nodes. Yeah, he does immense damage against minions especially, and you can see here he's also able to clear the death proofs, so really taking that away from them and gaining extra damage. Love Baron Zemo, provides amazing value, and again, you can find him in the raid store here, which is very quite accessible. It can be through the raid orbs or as well as the raid credits, but the fact that he's been added now, it really does provide a lot of value, especially the Hydra Signature teams, and as well him just being overall well a lit character. And honestly speaking, he's also utilized in Dark Dimension. I personally didn't have a chance to have him on board when we were progressing through Dark Dimension 3, but Baron Zemo, you bet, is a top pick as well. So, you know, a great consideration that you can have access to early game, especially with something. The raid credits are quite easy to get. You can get them through building up an alliance and going through your raids from a day-to-day basis. So he's quite accessible, and being a well-rounded kid, a top recommendation on my part as well. Next, we do have access to Beast now, with him being added into the game, and he's actually available through the Nexus 5 campaign. It's very nice because Beast is actually considered a core of many different X-Men teams. So the fact that such a coveted character is actually available for newer players now provides immense value, especially with the mutants being a very top meta in the game now. You know, the mutants have been getting a lot of love, so it's nice to see that. But Beast, he can be situated in a lot of different mutant teams because of the fact that his ultimate ability actually provides immense value for any kind of uncanny or astonishing X-Men, as you can see. And really, with him, he just provides a lot of sustainability and support as well, because he actually has a heal and he can also cleanse negative conditions. So it makes him a very core piece depending on what kind of team you want to build. But the beautiful thing about him is the fact that he can synergize with different X-Men teams. So for him being available in the game, as well as the uncanny X-Men, as well as the astonishing being top metas in the game, having Beast as a core between all those teams is actually very nice. And the fact that he is accessible means that we should definitely take advantage, especially if you're starting out. This is one of the newer additions in the game, so I definitely would recommend you guys take advantage of that if you have access to him earlier. Next, it is going to be, I want to bring up Captain America. You know, Wave 1 Avengers, like I said, has been overlooked for way too long. He is a solid character. He's got a great kit. First of all, you do have access to him quite early in the game. He's got that mid-game progression because he can provide some value for raids as well as Blitz and Arena. Last but not least, I did utilize the Wave 1 Avengers, as I mentioned earlier, a lot in my Doom Chapter 3 and as well as Chapter 2 campaign, just pushing forward through it. So with that being said here, the fact that he can synergize with Black Widow is actually provides immense value. Top of that, I definitely have seen players utilize Captain America in Dark Dimension 4 as well, so that's why he is considered here, because a character that can be built up from the very beginning can provide really big dividends, especially as you're progressing. So I do recommend him, and what the key thing about Captain America is the fact that he does have a ton of defense up, really providing protection and energy to the team. So he almost acts very similar to the legendary Shuri, providing that defense up, energy, as well as being able to kind of shoulder that burden from the team. So definitely a top recommendation as well if you guys have access to Captain America, and you can definitely start building that Wave 1 Avengers team as well. Last but not least here, with the Wave 1 Avengers, we do have to talk about Thor, because really that Wave 1 does shine with Thor, and ultimately Thor, he does actually have access to the fact that he can be slotted into two different teams, being the Asgardians as well as the Avengers. And with Thor, it's this beautiful passive effect where essentially what happens is if any of his allies are targeted, after numerous strikes, he is going to unleash for some devastating damage thanks to his God of Thunder passive ability here. So that's why it provides immense value. With Thor as well, he's also part of unlocking the legendary Black Bolt. So having 5 Asgardians as part of that team, you unlock Black Bolt legendary, who's considered the most powerful legendary in the game in terms of raw DPS and damage. So that's why I do recommend building up Thor early as well, especially with him, again, being referenced with the Wave 1 Avengers as well as being part of the Asgardians. Really, Thor provides amazing value for all aspects of the game, as well as being part of unlocking a legendary as well. The nice thing about Thor is he's actually available in both the raid store as well as a Hero 7 deeper in. So I do recommend going through the raid store just because of the fact that the credits are available easier, and Hero 7 you do need to push through a couple of nodes in the beginning. So that's why I do recommend it. It is going to be Loki, and unfortunately with Loki, he is actually a little bit deeper in the Mystic campaign. but he's going to provide amazing value. It's similar to Thor, where he's part of unlocking a legendary Black Bolt, but as well, Loki is actually utilized as part of unlocking Phoenix as well, so that's why I do have to bring him up. And again, the Asgardians team are a very, very powerful team. Loki is nice because he has his mind control ability, applying that defense down for 2 turns and really being able to apply some extra damage. And the nice thing about Loki is he also has defensive capabilities for his team here. So you can see here with his mirror image, he's able to apply stealth, summon mirror images to kind of take damage as well, and they also have evade, so that's very, very nice. But overall, I do believe Loki will provide immense value, especially if you can progress. He is a little deeper in the campaigns, but if you get access to him early, I definitely would recommend him. Just being able to unlock 2 legendaries, as well as being able to provide both offense and defense. Next, I do want to talk about this character, Luke Cage. You know, unfortunately hasn't got as much love as he has back in the day when the defenders were really good, but you can see here, I did still, at the end of the day, bring him up quite a bit at 44,000, and that's really where I stopped because, you know, after Dark Dimension 1, that's really when I stopped using him, and the defenders are unfortunately no longer relevant. But I do want to bring up Luke Cage because, first and foremost, he's one of the first characters you get in the game, and second of all, you can see on the left and how high I have leveled him up, no T4s, but the reason why Luke Cage I do recommend is because even when you're starting on the game, you still need characters that kind of provide you that extra kind of cushion to be able to push you forward. You know, at the end of the day, you may not have access to the other characters I mentioned, so you always need those slotting characters. Luke Cage is perfect for that. First of all, he's a solid tank. Second of all, he's one of the few characters in the game that can provide defense up for 2 turns, and that really does provide immense value, especially when you're trying to protect your team, and he has a taunt as well. So I do believe Luke Cage can provide amazing early game value. He could be a mid-game slot in for heroes when you're pushing through. Last but not least, I did utilize him for Dark Dimension 1 because you'll find, especially with Luke Cage, he's going to be probably one of the first characters you'll get at 6 yellow. With him being accessible with the Blitz store, it's very easy to get credits for Luke Cage, and you get him naturally, that's great. But really, I do find that he has value. Unfortunately, after the late game, especially Dark Dimension 1, you won't see a lot from him. But again, you almost kind of need like a babysitter, and I do recommend Luke Cage, especially before the other characters, because he can give you that extra protection, especially when you don't have access to the characters I've mentioned so far. And last but not least, you guys, Electro is another new character being added to the game, and similar to Luke Cage, you can find her actually in the Blitz store being available. You can see I haven't built her quite a bit because my Sinister 6 team just hasn't gotten much love, but out of the Sinister 6, Doc Ock and Electro, in my opinion, are the top 2 for his team. So with that being said, I do believe she would provide immense value now that she's actually accessible to a lot of players, and reason being is because she does have an amazing ability here to apply offense down, really taking away that damage from the enemies, and that synergizes extremely well for the Sinister 6. And when you're trying to control waves, this is really great because especially when you're starting out, you're gonna find that with the villains campaign, there's just not a lot of good villains characters for you to level up. And with Electro, just feel good knowing that she is a solid right hand man for Doc Ock once you get access to him. So with that being said here, I'm going to zoom out and show you the 10 characters I've mentioned here. So overall, these are the ones I'd recommend, especially if you're starting out. The game has changed quite a bit, but if you guys can get access to these 10 characters earlier rather than later, you're going to find some immense value for progression, and really this is going to help expedite your growth in the game, especially if your alliance is regularly raiding and going through the wars. So with that being said, you guys, always do appreciate you checking out my videos. Hope this was able to provide some insight, especially as you progress, and as well as my insight from just being able to be a late game player now at this point. So thank you as always, you guys. Do appreciate you checking out my channel, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.